Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, we're going to be doing a 14-team PPR mock draft from the 9th overall spot using FantasyPro's Draft Wizard. The roster positions for today's mock are 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, a tight end, flex, kicker, defense, and 6 bench spots. We're going to be drafting up against the composite ADP from ESPN, NFL Sleeper, and RT Sports, as well as up against the expert consensus rankings from FantasyPros. I did adjust the positional values of wide receivers too high because I feel like this year in a majority of drafts, wide receivers are going to be coming off the board at a much higher rate early on. But before we can get into this mock draft, I would like to ask that if you guys are new to the channel and you do end up enjoying today's video, that you please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. And while you're down there, whether you are new to the channel or not, please make sure they do leave a like on today's video. It would help me out a ton. If you want to follow me on Twitter, please do so at NotoriousFantasy. So without further ado, let's get into this 14-team PPR mock draft from the 9th overall spot. Now, if you have never done a 14-team draft, I will tell you that it is wildly different than a 12 or a 10-team league that you are used to. I think in these kind of drafts, you want to be very balanced, perfectly balanced, as all things should be, Thanos style, and I definitely would suggest taking at least one running back in the first 2 rounds, because if you don't go with a running back, say, at the 109 or the 206, for our example, the running backs that come back in the 3rd round are not the running backs you're used to in the 3rd round. To me, things get pretty gross in the 3rd round for running backs in general, even in 12-team leagues, so it's even more disgusting in 14-team leagues. I am also much less likely to draft a guy like Travis Kelce super early. At the 9th pick, I'm definitely open to it, but I don't feel as though in a 14-team league, I really need that positional advantage with the tight end, whereas in a 10-team league or an 8-team league, I am fiending for a guy like Travis Kelce that could take me over the top, because everyone's team is stacked in an 8 or 10-team league. In 14-team leagues, there are going to be teams that don't even stand a chance. If especially people that are newer to fantasy, they are going to get the dog shit beat out of them in these leagues if they draft incorrectly in 14-team leagues. So the draft begins with Jefferson, followed by Christian McCaffrey, Jamar Chase, Cooper Kupp, Tyreek Hill, Austin Eckler, Saquon Barkley, and Bijan Robinson. Travis Kelce has fallen to us. I definitely wouldn't, say that you're a buffoon or something for drafting him, but I'm not going to take him here. I am going to go with a wide receiver because I think I'm going to be pretty comfortable with the running back that falls back to us, but maybe not, if I'm being honest with you, because again, it's a 14-team league. Some of these teams might stack up double running back, and then we might be looking down the barrel at potentially Najee Harris as the best running back available by the time we pick. So I think I'm going to go with running back here because, again, I don't want to get buried into having a garbage running back room in a 14-team league. So we are going to go with my highest ranked running back, and that is going to be 9-inch Nicholas Chubb. Some people will tell me, Nick, that's a reach over Diggs or Lamb or A.J. Brown. Well, Nick Chubb has been rising up the draft boards at an incredibly high rate. He now, on Underdog, is a first-round pick. I think he's going to be unanimously a first-round pick in a majority of 12-team leagues. I like him and Tony Pollard a ton, but I'm going to stick with Nick Chubb again. I really do believe that this Cleveland Browns offense is going to be much different than last year. They're going to be a lot stronger, as well as the fact that Kareem Hunt being gone definitely adds a lot of receiving upside to Nick Chubb. After Chubb, we see Travis Kelce, Jonathan Taylor, Stephon Diggs, CeeDee Lamb, as well as Devontae Adams. The second opens with A.J. Brown, Garrett Wilson, Josh Jacobs, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Patrick Mahomes. I definitely think it is a little bit crazy in a 14-team league to, with your first 2 picks, go quarterback and tight end. Now, obviously, if Mahomes the QB1, Kelce is the tight end 1 by a lot, then that's cool and all, but I definitely think that is a risk. Again, the running back core, even their wide receivers, are going to look relatively suspect. So shockingly, not as many running backs came off the board as I thought they would. I really thought that it was almost a mortal lock of the century that at least Tony Pollard or Derrick Henry would come off the board, but they don't end up coming off the board. So that leaves us up to a question here. Do we prefer Pollard, Henry, or Stevenson, or Waddle, Olave, Smith, Higgins? For me, this is a very easy answer. I definitely prefer Tony Pollard or Derrick Henry. I think Tony Pollard normally in this situation would be gone. So if you think it's kind of overpowered for me to have Nick Chubb and Tony Pollard, just envision it was Derrick Henry. I would have been just as excited to get Derrick Henry. I think Tony Pollard is going to get the ball just jammed down his throat this season. I fully expect for under his franchise tag, this team to just force feed this man the rock game in and game out. Zeke isn't there. They might end up bringing Zeke back, but I'm going to be honest with you. It is evident that Pollard is the RB1 in this situation. The Dallas Cowboys offense is pretty solid, and I expect Tony Pollard to absolutely feast, go beast mode Marshawn Lynch this season. After Tony Pollard, Derrick Henry, Ramondre Stevenson, Jalen Waddle away, Waddle, T. Higgins, Chris Olave, Devontae Smith, Breece Hall, Keenan Allen. Josh Allen opens the third round. Jahmyr Gibbs, Jalen Hurts, Mark Andrews, Travis Etienne, Najee Harris, Kenneth Walker, Joe Mixon. Again, feeling like you might be trapped into drafting a guy like Kenneth Walker in the third round or Najee Harris, Travis Etienne is kind of a gross feeling to me. I'm very glad, I'm very much excited that I drafted Nick Chubb and Tony Pollard because now our running back room is shored up. We don't have to deal with a bunch of this bullshit. We can just hammer wide receivers from here on out. Calvin Ridley is a guy that I am drafting like it's my job. I genuinely believe that Calvin Ridley could finish as a top 12 wide receiver. I think that this Jacksonville Jaguars team is going to be one of the best offenses in the NFL. I don't think Calvin Ridley is going to have any rust to his game. I think he is going to go in week one and cement himself as the clear wide receiver one on this team. I have been someone that has been fully fading DK Metcalf. I just don't get it in the third round. I get that he is an immensely skilled player. He is one of the most skilled wide receivers in the NFL. There is just too many issues. There's too many receivers there for DK Metcalf to pay off in the third round. Now, if he was going like the fifth round, sure, I'm willing to take that shot, but he's just going too high for me. After we went with Calvin Ridley came DK Metcalf, Aaron Jones, TJ Hawkinson, Miles Sanders, Lamar Jackson. The fourth opens with Debo, Chris Godwin, Alexander Madison, Cam Akers, and DJ Moore. So none of the big three quarterbacks are on the board. So I'm not looking quarterback here. I like Burrow, I like Fields, but just not in the fourth round. It's a little too rich for me. We already have Chubb and Tony Pollard, so our mind is kind of made here. Since Hawkinson, as well as Kelsey and Andrews are also gone, I don't want to reach in the fourth round on Waller, Goddard, Kittle, or Pitts. I think any of those guys has top three potential. And I love Darren Waller. It seems like Darren Waller is really skyrocketing up people's rankings because of how he's performed in training camp. But again, I'm not sold on drafting him in the fourth round. I would rather wait for that suppressed price later on in drafts. So for me, my highest ranked receiver is Amari Cooper, but I think we could go differently here. Jerry Jeudy is a guy that I have been nervous about in the past, but recently I have gotten a little bit more confident in. Now, I fully realize that it is still a risk, right? Russell Wilson might just not be that quarterback that we're used to in Seattle. He might just be the guy we saw in Denver last season, cooking up a fucking disaster class in Denver. It was so bad last season, but Jerry Jeudy started to catch fire towards the end of the season. I think Sean Payton should be able to turn things around, but there's still risk here with Jeudy because I don't think Sutton's necessarily some bum. They draft Marvin Mims. They have Greg Dulcich. Maybe this team wants to be more run-heavy with Javonte as well as Samaje Perine because maybe Sean Payton realizes that maybe Russell Wilson isn't that guy anymore, and they want to put less pressure onto his back. Right? Put less pressure onto him, not obviously onto his back. He's not an old fucking man at this point. So I like Jeudy. I'd consider London here. I'd consider D-Hop here. I think Deontay Johnson, Christian Watson. There's a lot of guys that I like here. I have Amari Cooper ranked the highest, but I think I don't want to just draft the same players every single draft. So we are going to go with Jerry Jeudy. There is 100% risk with Jeudy, but I think this is a guy that out of college, everyone unanimously liked. There was not, at least from what I've seen and when I was talking about it when he was coming into the NFL, there was really no one that was cold on Jerry Jeudy. Everyone thought Jerry Jeudy was an excellent prospect coming out of Alabama. I think this is a good spot in Denver. There is definitely a lot of question marks, But at the same time as my wide receiver 2, I'm a little bit more willing to take that risk. After Jerry Jeudy, we see Joe Shiesty, Amari Cooper, DeAndre Hopkins, DeAndre Swift, Deshaun Watson in the 4th round. I love Deshaun Watson this year. I think that Deshaun Watson is going to be laying the pipe down, and maybe that's wrong to say for Deshaun Watson, but you get what I mean, right? I think Watson is going to come back and have a great season, but in the 4th round, that is way too pretty of a penny for me. After that, Drake London, Deontay Johnson, J.K. Dobbins, the 5th opens with Mike Dubb, Terry McLaurin, James Conner, Dalvin Cook, Javonte Williams, Alvin Kamara, Justin Herbert, and Christian Watson. So there was a lot of debate, a lot of worries after Kareem Hunt showed up in New Orleans and seemingly was offered a contract. But Kareem Hunt left the New Orleans Saints without a contract and got on a plane to Indianapolis. With the Jonathan Taylor situation, trouble in paradise, what is Jonathan Taylor going to do? What is going to happen with Jonathan Taylor? Is he going to play? Is he going to hold out? What's going to happen? This leads to Kareem Hunt wanting to go there because he thinks that he could be the RB1. The Saints running back room, they have obviously Alvin Kamara, they just brought in Jamal Williams, and they just drafted Kendre Miller. So it didn't really make sense to me as to why he would have went to the Saints. So I think the Colts is a better landing spot for him, as well as his fantasy value. And that does kind of leave Alvin Kamara a little unscathed there. I still don't want to draft him in the 5th round, but I'm going to be honest with you. I think the fact that Kareem Hunt isn't going there, or shouldn't end up going there, is a net positive for Kamara. So looking at the board here again, I am just so happy that I had the insight of being in a lot of 14-team leagues and realizing that I was going to get absolutely skull-fucked at running back if I didn't draft too early. James Conner in the 5th, Dalvin Cook in the 5th, Williams in the 5th, Kamara in the 5th. I mean, I don't hate James Conner, but not knowing what team Dalvin Cook is on, I like Javonte Williams, but there's definitely question marks with his injury. We haven't seen him play in preseason yet. If he goes out there and he's cutting up the defense, then that's going to be great. But if he's running in a straight fucking line and can't cut it all, I'm going to start to get nervous. So we're back up on the board here. Justin Fields is available for us. All of the tight ends are still available. I think what we might want to do here is just draft one more running back and then go wide receiver heavy here. So we have Chubb, Pollard, and then we could add Dameon Pierce, Rashad White, David Montgomery, James Cook, whoever we like there. Now, I am certainly big into Justin Fields this season, but I would be crazy to tell you that there's zero risk in Justin Fields. There's obviously more injury risk inherently with a quarterback that likes to run the ball a lot. And he wasn't that great of a passer last season. I think he's going to get better with Wiki DJ Moore, the better offensive line. But there is certainly risk with Fields. Like maybe that was just a one-year wonder. I don't think it is, but there is risk. So I think we're just going to go running back here, get a safe option on the team. We're going to go with Dameon Pierce. This is a guy that I loved coming out into the NFL draft last season. He was a guy that I was talking up all offseason from when he was basically going as a free pick deep in drafts till when he skyrocketed like your cock after you have some Viagra all the way up the board. I was still touting him there, and I'm going to tout him again this season. I think the addition of CJ Stroud, the fact that Lovie Smith is gone, I think this is going to be a better offensive line than last year. It's hard to be worse. They bring in Devin Singletary, but Devin Singletary isn't going to take away much from Dameon Pierce. I know Dameon Pierce isn't this pass-catching guru, but the fact that they bring in Devin Singletary, he can't fucking catch the ball to save his life. So I think that Dameon Pierce might just have sneakily ended up in a situation where he can get a decent amount of targets. So after Dameon Pierce, we see Isaiah Pacheco, Justin Fields, Rashad with 2A's, White, George Kittle, James Cook. The 6th opens with Waller, Lawrence, Ayuk, Pitts, and Lockett. Kind of sucks because I was hoping that Fields would fall our way, and I was also hoping that Darren Waller would fall our way. So now the best available tight end is Dallas Goedert. Now to me, Dallas Goedert is one of the safest picks you can make at tight end, because it's a very unsexy pick. When you draft Dallas Goedert, you aren't getting this supermodel, this 10 out of 10. You're not getting Giselle, right? But you're also not getting someone that is a complete and utter scrub. You're just going to get consistency. game in and game out, but Dallas Goedert isn't going to take you over the top. Dallas Goedert isn't going to smack you in the mouth like he got smacked in the mouth in, I believe, a North Dakota bar, right? Dallas Goedert is never really going to have that game where he hangs 30 points. He hangs his nuts all over the defense. But there's also going to rarely be the games where he scores just 4 points, right? Where he sinks your metaphorical battleship. So that's something you need to think about. Now, with Pitts, with Hawkinson, with all of these guys gone, with Waller, I am much more open to drafting Goedert because I understand that he is a safe pick. Again, he's never really going to screw me over, but he's never really going to be the reason why I win my week. Knowing what I know now, I kind of wish I didn't take Pierce, took a receiver, and then was able to get David Montgomery in the 6th round. But again, you never really know what's going to happen. You can make your own educated guesses, and that's why doing these mock drafts are so important, because you can prepare yourself for how certain situations would play out. Basically, the reason why I think mock drafting is so important, it's so you don't shit yourself when you're on the clock. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and the like button down below. But there's a lot of people in your draft. If you're drafting with your friends, you will see people legitimately panic. You are now on the clock, it'll say, or whatever it says on ESPN. On NFL, I think it says you are now on the clock. And people will panic. It's like they never looked at anything. They never thought that maybe this is what could happen. So that's why mock drafts are so important. So that if you fall into a situation where normally you would drown in quicksand, a lot of people would, you are able to grab onto that rope and pull yourself out, right? You are not going to panic. And that's why I think mock drafts are so important. So it's close between Goedert and these guys. I think having that safety is super important. I'm not reaching for a guy like Dak, Tua in the 6th. I love Tua this year, but not in the 6th round. So I think we're just going to go Goedert. He's probably the safest option. He has some decent upside as well, but I just don't think he will ever, take the throne as the number 1 guy. He's not like the prince who was promised to Jon Snow style to be the number 1 guy. You don't need to draft the number 1 guy at tight end, right, in the 6th round. He could be tight end 4, and you could still be happy, but I just don't really see him. Even, I would kind of be shocked if Goedert with A.J. Brown, with Devontae Smith, was able to even overtake a guy like Mark Andrews as the tight end 2. So maybe tight end 3 is Goedert's ceiling. After Goedert, we see Mike Evans, Christian Kirk, Evan Ingram, Pat Freiermuth, Michael Pittman, David Montgomery, Dickie Dak Prescott, Antonio Gibson, Quentin Johnston, Hollywood Brown, Jahan Dotson, Khalil Herbert, George Pickens, Jackson Smith-Njigba, Jordan Addison-Ray, as well as Michael Thomas. So another point I want to bring up here is normally I am someone that doesn't take backup tight ends or backup quarterbacks. Even if I take a quarterback a little bit later, normally I'm just riding with that guy in a 10 or 12 team league. If they get hurt, you cut someone, you throw them in the lineup, or they're out for the season, you cut them, you play someone else. But in 14 team leagues, even if just half of the people draft quarterbacks, or a second quarterback and their normal quarterback, you're in a range where it gets gross on the waiver wire. And you might be in a league, my 14 team league that I play in, most of the time, every single fucking person drafts 2 quarterbacks. So you are stuck with guys like Mac Jones, Desmond Ridder, or maybe someone who doesn't even start for their team. Like Will Levis might be the best quarterback available on the waiver wire. So what you definitely want to do in these scenarios is draft 2 quarterbacks. And if I didn't draft Goedert and I went down deeper and I was drafting, say, Schultz, I'd probably draft Schultz and Everett, Schultz and Kincaid, right? Match 2 tight ends together. So when we draft our quarterback, eventually we are going to draft a backup quarterback, even though for some people that might be a shock because of how much I kind of talk poo-poo negatively about doing that. So our team, 9-inch Nicholas Chubb, Tony Pollard, Calvin Ridley, Jerry Jeudy, Dallas Goedert, and Dameon Pierce, chef's kiss. This team is looking great. Looking at wide receivers, definitely going downhill, right? Burks with DeAndre Hopkins there, with Derrick Henry. To me, that's just kind of a guy to stay away from in best ball, right? Where you don't have to actually figure out what week to start Burks. He'll probably be just fine, because he'll have some good games. But on a week in, week out basis, how often are you really going to want to start Burks, right? as my wide receiver 3, a guy that could be a flex option weekly. I just don't want that. I think Brandon Cooks is the safer option here. And then by the time we swing back around, we may be able to get another wide receiver that I like. We might get buried at quarterback, but again, even if I just have Rodgers and Anthony Richardson or something, I'd be just fine with that. So we're going to go with Brandon Cooks here. I like the landing spot in Dallas. Brandon Cooks has been a guy that just prints 1,000-yard seasons. If you pull up his stats, I mean, the guy's the king of 1,000-yard seasons. You can see it right here. I understand that last year was definitely a down year, 699 yards with the Houston Texans, but there's a big difference going from going from Davis Money Mills, the giraffe man himself, built like the Toys R Us mascot, to going to Dak Prescott. Again, he is the clear number 2 behind CeeDee Lamb. Every year, people try to do the Michael Gallup thing. I also recognize that some weeks I'm going to be stuck playing 2 guys on the Dallas Cowboys, which I'm fine doing because I think they are a good offense. There are some teams where, in reality, do you want to be starting 2 guys on the Texans every single week? Probably not. Now, maybe the Texans outdo expectations. The Patriots, this is a team with a defense that is amazing, but offensively, it's pretty meh. Whereas if you have 2 guys on like the Jaguars, the Cowboys, the Browns, these teams that I project to be good, the Bengals, the Dolphins, the Chiefs, right? It doesn't feel as gross weekly having to do that. So after we went with Brandon Cooks came A.J. Dillon, Gabe Davis, Aaron Rodgers, Samaj P. Ryan, Jamal Williams. The 8th opens with the Niners, Zach Charbonnet, Cortland Sutton, Treylon Burks, and the Philadelphia Eagles defense. The Hard Knocks bump is going to be coming in a big way. Pause for these Jets players. Hard Knocks debuted last night. I have yet to watch it. I'm going to watch it probably as you guys are watching the video. I'll probably have thrown it on or watch it at night, but it happens every single year. People will see these guys. They will fall in love with the ayahuasca god, Aaron Rodgers. They'll fall in love with Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson, and their ADP will start to rise. Maybe even the Jets defense ADP starts to rise, right? Because when you get to know the character, when you get to know the actual players, people just start to like them even more. They're easier to root for because you know more about them. That's also why, if you're drafting in your home league in New Jersey, like I do, there's going to be a lot of people that rise the Giants players and the Jets players off the board. If you live in Miami, there's probably going to be someone who's loco enough to take fucking Tyreek Hill number 1 overall, which I don't even think is crazy. So maybe Jalen Waddle at the middle of the first round, or Tua super early, right? You have to know these things. Maybe they love the Bucs, so they draft fucking Baker Mayfield in the 7th round, which is terrible. You have to know your league, but I know that anyone who's an avid football fan that watches Hard Knocks will get swayed even slightly by Hard Knocks. It happens every single year, without fail. You guys remember when Jarvis Landry gave that speech on Hard Knocks all those years ago? Bam! His ADP went skyrocketing up. So just something to watch out for. We still don't have a quarterback. Looking at the teams here, 1, 2, 3 teams without a quarterback, me included. I think at this point, since the other 2 teams without quarterbacks are going to get to pick again before I get to pick, we do want to take a quarterback in this spot. I like Tua. I know people are worried about Tua. I'm a Dolphins fan, but I always try to keep my takes very honest. It has nothing to do with my fandom. Tua is a risk because of the injury, 100%. But if Tua is able to stay healthy, if that big Darth helmet that he's wearing now, that new high-tech helmet, if the judo, he's rolling off these hits, if he is able to stay healthy with the wide receiver core they have, with the running backs that are great at pass catching like they have, the ceiling is the moon for Tua. Sure, he's not going to run a lot, and that might cap him from finishing as like the QB3, but he could easily finish to me as a top 5 quarterback, and I am all over Tua Tagovailoa this season. I think this is going to be his best year yet. Last year, it was the best he has ever done. Best I've ever had, like Drizzy Drake, but I think in 2023, things are going to get even better again. This Mike McDaniel system is built for speed, and this offense is fast as fucking Lightning McQueen. After Tua, Odell Beckham Jr., Juju Smith-Schuster, Kadarius Toney, Tyler Algier, Brian Robinson, Rondell Moore, Rashad Master Bateman, Elijah Moore, Jacoby Myers, Michael Gallup, Zay Flowers, Damian Harris, Darnell, here comes the booty, Rashad Penny, Adam Thielen, and Sky Moore. So my prediction was wrong. I made an educated guess, hey, some of these teams without quarterbacks are going to draft a quarterback, and they don't, but it is what it is. I still don't feel like I drastically bet my team over the table by drafting Tua Tagovailoa. So right now we have Chubb, Pollard, and Pierce at running back. Our receivers are Ridley, Judy, and Cook. So we definitely need a lot more running backs, a lot more receivers. It is also important to note that you don't want to be cucked out of your quarterback too either, especially in leagues where someone might take their quarterback one in, say, the 8th round, where I took Tua. Some people might just come back around 9th round, bam, draft Danny Dimes, draft another quarterback. So you don't want to get buried into the range where, like, Derek Carr is your quarterback too. I don't hate Derek Carr, but I would much rather have, like, Anthony Richardson by a mile, Jared Goff, any of those guys. So looking at the board here, I think we are going to want to go ahead and snag a running back with some upside. It's going to tell us that this is a reach, so we're probably going to go wide receiver and then go running back, but Tank Bigsby is the guy I have my eye on. I talked about him in the video from earlier today, league winners. I legitimately think that this guy is going to take a cut into the workload of Travis Etienne. I think he's going to take away the goal line work, some pass catching work. Yesterday in training camp, he ripped off a 70-yard run. This guy was locked behind the Auburn offensive line that sucked donkey cock, but Tank Bigsby was still solid, great after contact. His name is fucking Tank. He's going to roll off these defenders. I know it's going to say it's a reach in the 10th round, but I think Tank's ADP is going to keep rising. Since we already drafted Dameon Pierce, I love Nico Collins. I just don't know if I want to bite that bullet, if I'm being honest with you. Don't know. But the other options here are so gross that we might just have to, right? Even understanding that the Texans might not be that great, I think you could probably still in a pinch start Collins and Pierce. Our receivers I'm already pretty confident in, so we're not going to have to be throwing Collins in there all that much unless there's an injury. I love Jameson Williams, but in a 14-team league, especially if there's no IR spot, in the 9th round, I'm not drafting a guy that is not going to play for the first 6 games of the season. I think it would be pure lunacy. I think there's a chance that Nico Collins is the number 1 receiver on the Texans. He would be my best bet to do so. So I will happily take him there in the 9th round, even though we already have Dameon Pierce. And I already made that speech about not necessarily wanting to draft 2 players on not the best teams, but in 14-team leagues, sometimes you got to make things work, right? You got to pick the best players. After Nico Collins, we see Jerick McKinnon, followed by Jameson Williams, Jeff Wilson, Devin 2 Chains, Elijah Mitchell, Kendre Miller, Chase Brown, Romeo Doubs, Kenneth Gainwell, and Zeke. Remember, like I said, in 14-team leagues, if you don't go with at least 1 running back early on, you are going to get buried. Trying to do the 0 running back strategy, very hard here. Especially if you're taking it seriously. If you're having like legitimate restraint and you're drafting your 3 receivers, right? You draft the 3 receivers instantly, right? You mix in the tight end, you mix in the quarterback, and that's like the 6th, 7th round. Then you go for your first running back. Like, you're going to be getting guys, again, you could still win this way, right? You could package together Montgomery and Herbert and Brian Robinson and Damian Harris, right? You can package together these running backs and maybe it does hit, but to me, it's a lot harder in a 14-team league compared to a 10 or a 12-team league. So we're up here. We're going Tank Bigsby. We already talked the pickup, so we don't really need to explain it again. I want pieces of this Jaguars offense. I want a guy that if something happens to Etienne, I think literally has top 12 upside. And if nothing happens to Etienne in a 14-team league, there are going to be people that are fucking calling your phone repeatedly like a psycho ex-girlfriend, trying to get you to talk to them so that they can even have Tank Bigsby on their roster to grace their lineup because, again, the waivers in 14-team leagues are gross. And you definitely want to have more running backs on your roster than receivers. Get more shots at that Willy Wonka, that golden ticket, that guy that might be a waiver wire pickup in a 10 or 12-team league, but you got him stashed, chilling on your bench in a 14-team league. After Bigsby, DJ Chark, baby Chark, Allen Lazard, Anthony Richardson, Devin Singletary, Raheem Mostert, Tyler, Boyd, KJ Osborne, Gerald Everett, Jalen Warren, Zay Jones, David Njoku, Donovan Peoples-Jones, Dalton Schultz, Kirk O'Chains, Dalton Kincaid, and Cole Kmet. So we have 3 more picks, and then we have to draft our kicker and our defense. We're still without a backup quarterback. I'm fine waiting here. I don't think Daniel Jones in reality would actually be available here. So I'm just not going to take him if I'm being honest with you. So I think we need to get another running back on this squad. Another running back with some upside. It seems like everyone and their mom is all in on Miles Sanders. All in on him catching more passes. All in on this third down work. This 3-down workhorse back in Carolina. I don't buy it. Especially these people that are saying that he's going to get like all these fucking targets. I just don't see it. I think Chuba Hubbard's going to be more involved than people want. And I think he's a decent late round add to this team. So we are back up on the board here after going with Chuba Hubbard. We see Jalen Hyatt, Alec Pierce, Cordero Patterson, Perry Campbell, Donta Foreman, Jonathan Mingo, Roxon Johnson, Danny Dimes, Greg Dulcich, and Uncle Lenny Fournette. So we are going to go with a quarterback here. We're going to go with either Goff or Geno. Make sure you check the bye weeks if you're drafting 2 quarterbacks. Geno's bye is bye 5. Goff is bye 9. I like them both similar amount. If you were in this situation in 2 different leagues, I'd probably take Geno in one, Goff in the other. I'm going to go with Geno here. Better wide receiver core, but I think both of them are pretty safe options. I'm a huge fan of the Detroit Lions offense this year. It says that we got a steal, so say you weren't able to get Geno Smith and you're stuck in this range, I'm probably just going to take Russell Wilson, even though it feels kind of gross. I really do think this Broncos offense is going to bounce back, and Russ isn't that same guy that literally you would rather be stabbed in the cock hole than watch some of those Broncos games last year with Russ under center. After Geno, the Bills, Cowboys, Chig, Dearness Johnson, the Jets, Jerome Ford, Mike Gesicki, Mike Licky, Ahmad Gesicki, the Patriots, Clyde, Edwards-Helaire, Gus Bus Edwards, Michael Cotta, Kareem Hunt, Jared Goff, Rashi Rice, Sam Laporta, and Tyler Higbee. So our final pick here will be a wide receiver. Looking at the best wide receivers available here, I think we're just going to go with Hodgins. I think he has a good shot to be the number 1 receiver on this Giants team. And if you can find the number 1 receiver on any team in the 13th round of a 14-team league, that will have been a fucking amazing pick when you go back and look at things. So after we went with Isaiah Hodgins, we see Marquise Valdez-Scantling, Ravens defense, Hunter Renfrow, Tyler Conklin, Tajay Spears, Juwan Johnson, Justin Tucker the fucker, Broncos, Zamir White, and Deuce Vaughn. We're up on the board here, up on the clock. We're going to go Bass as our kicker. Again, I'm not going to have some crazy kicker debate in early August. If you want to have it in the comments, we can do that, but not going to waste 3 minutes on the video breaking down my kicker selection. And then we are going to go defense. Were any other notable players taken? They were not. It was just Joshua Palmer, Deion Jackson, Joshua Kelly, Nick Folk, my boy, my old bitch lame, but my young Hoku was also selected. We're going defense to give you like the too long didn't read version, the spark notes. You want to draft a defense that's playing a not so hot opponent in week 1. The Dolphins, they got the Chargers. Now, I'm a huge fan of the Dolphins defense. Justin Herbert might put us in the camel crutch. He might hit us with the 619 Rey Mysterio, so I don't want to target that. The Bengals, they're going up against the Browns. This could go either way. Don't want anything to do with that. The Buccaneers, their defense, pretty They're going up against the Vikings. They might get fucking spit shined. The Browns, going up against the Bengals. If Joe Burrow misses that game, yes. If Joe Burrow is there, no. We're going to go with the left hand up. Who are we, the Commanders, going up against the Arizona Cardinals, week 1. Clayton Tune, Colt McCoy, just a recipe for success. Sugar, spice, and everything nice like you are the Powerpuff Girls. So our team, we get an A. In my opinion, this is a 100 out of 100. This is probably the best grade we've gotten in a while. Fantasy Pros is normally tripping big time when they give us our ranking, so I'm glad they gave us an A, but don't look too heavily into the draft grade. Don't let it impact you. If they give you like a D on Yahoo or wherever you draft your team, don't sit there and just be sad. Don't worry about it. Leave your team down below in the comment section when you draft, and I will rank it for you. So give it a nice grade. I love doing that. That's like one of my favorite things to do. And I am very honest. I'm not going to just be like, since you're watching my videos, I'm not just going to give you a fucking A, right? If I don't like your team, say, you know what, that wasn't the best. It's hard to get an F, though. Like, you literally would have had to have Stevie Wonder, who can't even see the screen, draft your team for that to happen. So your quarterback is going to be Tua Tagovailoa, or our quarterback, Tua Tagovailoa. Running backs, 9-inch Nicholas Chubb, Tony Pollard. Again, if you think Pollard is unrealistic, then that could be Derrick Henry, Calvin Ridley, Jerry Jeudy, Dallas Goedert, Damian Pierce. Left hand up, who are we, the Commanders? Tyler Bass. Brandon Cooks, Nico Collins, Tank Bigsby, Chuba Hubbard, Gino. If you don't think Gino would have been there, that'll be Russ, and then Isaiah Hodgins. So thank you guys all so much for watching. If you did end up enjoying, make sure to hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. Let me know any questions you guys have about 14-team leagues. Maybe you're new to it. Hopefully this video helped you out a bunch. Again, make sure you get to mock drafting, though. Love you guys. Hope you all have a great one. And as always, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. Good boy!